I'm just waiting to see if we are live. Okay, we are. So we're live and unmuted, so now we can start. Hello, Steph. Thank you for being here with me for this 7th Tech Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So you come from Wolfram Blockchain Lab, which is a division of Wolfram Research that really focus on blockchain technology and how you can support the ecosystem through educational, analytics, and DLT integration services. Can you maybe tell us a bit more?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Steph Curdy. Wolfram Blockchain Labs is a subsidiary of Wolfram Research. So in today's talk, I'll give you a little bit of a background about Wolfram Research, if for those unfamiliar in the audience, and then what we do as research and development lab, and the types of products and services that we're building out. And yeah, just excited to have the conversation today.
Thank you. I think you have prepared a presentation for us today. So maybe you can start sharing your screen and go ahead with this.
Yes.
So just for the people watching us, so Steph is going to do a little presentation, and then we'll follow up by a discussion. And at the end, you'll be able to ask any question that you may have in the chat, and I will bring them up to Steph so that he can answer them for you. So Steph, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Yeah, so like I said, we'll talk a little bit about Wolfram Research, the parent entity, and then Wolfram Blockchain Labs. So Wolfram Research was founded by Stephen Wolfram almost 35 years ago, and is still the tireless CEO today. So Wolfram Research is the creator of Mathematica, Wolfram Alpha, and Wolfram Language. Most people probably know Wolfram Alpha for helping as a supportive math tutor technology, and that's where a lot of folks are aware of what Wolfram does. But actually, the company does many things across the computational sciences, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that is. But Stephen is the author of A New Kind of Science and many other books, and the originator of the Wolfram Physics Project. And briefly, our blockchain team is broken down into two teams, strategic and technical team. There's about 11 of us. We're a growing team, but definitely in the research, development, and startup phases of this division. A little bit about myself. I really came into this space from an investment point of view and from an economic and complex systems point of view. Have tried to further my education and remain humble while trying to navigate this extremely complex and evolving ecosystem. But some previous work of mine has been in the institutional fund management at a firm here in the US called Cambridge Associates. I did study under Nassim Taleb, who wrote Anti-Fragile and The Black Swan and Fooled by Randomness in his Real World Risk Institute. From there, I began work at Tesla as an energy advisor in the grid infrastructure and sales. And that I do tie to kind of an understanding of proof of work and the importance of the tie between our electrical grid and our money. Several things led me to join an internship at Wolfram. I fell down a rabbit hole when the Wolfram Physics Project was launched. I do practice permaculture, which is permanent agriculture on a small 3-acre farm. I'm a licensed youth soccer coach and have been through the booms and busts of crypto for 7+ years.
And you made it so far. Congrats.
I'm still alive. I'm still kicking. I'm still enthusiastic. But this quote from the comedian and news talk show host John Oliver really, I think, is something that I like to uh, keep me and many others humble. It's crypto is everything you don't understand about money combined with everything you don't understand about computers. And for me, that's very true. And what I thought I knew more about money than computers, I've realized maybe we can know probably a little bit more about computers at this point. And that money thing is just a really deep, complex issue. And I think the blockchain space really just puts it all out on the table and says, what do we know and what can we rebuild and what types of things are we speed running and are we running into the same issues that we've kind of come across over the past few hundred years as a society. So I'm deeply humbled by it. But like I said, Wolfram Research is a applied computational sciences and software company. Um, Maybe this is a little too small to see, but the fields on the left here range from mathematics to physics, engineering, chemistry, geosciences, data science, business and economics, biology, the humanities. So these are all things that we can program within uh, the Wolfram notebook, which we call Mathematica, using the Wolfram language. And really, we're trying to understand the basic science of many different things. And the approach is uh, pioneered by Stephen. And Stephen Wolfram had things that he wanted to answer about the world and needed to build the tools in order to do that. And so basically, Wolfram Research is that big tool that has been built. And so we expand into many different scientific areas. One thing just to note, recently, Wolfram Research implemented a plugin into the Chat GPT uh, large language model. And from a high level, I think it's just important to keep in mind that these domains that we work within, um, like Wolfram Alpha, Wolfram Alpha is meant to provide a definitive answer from facts and algorithms in the world, whereas Chat GPT is um, it's a language model, and so the approach to it and the generated output is a bit different. And so Wolfram is always focused on knowing things definitively. And if we can know things definitively, then we can do science on them. And if we can know things definitively and do it in a computational way with a programming language, uh, we call that computational intelligence. And our division, our subsidiary of Wolfram Blockchain Labs is trying to extend all of that computational intelligence that Wolfram Research has built and just deliver it into blockchain ecosystems, which are rich with new types of frameworks, information, different ways of doing things, new types of talent, new types of thinking. So it's a rich new scientific space. Uh, for those on the call here, we're probably all aware that we're going through a digital revolution. Uh, but some entities and some facts about the world are known within the Wolfram language, like world population and number of internet users uh, since the 1500s, world population since the 1500s, and the internet since data has been taken about it. And this little curve here is number of crypto users. That was a manual input because we're still trying to track what type of uh, of of users we have, but it's beginning to look along that exponential curve, and we fully believe that um, internet users will reach the same amount of as world population, and crypto users will follow a similar trend. So, what do blockchains enable? We believe that blockchains enable an internet native, cryptographically secure, programmable property rights. Um, and that's a big deal. And that allows us to do wildly new things. It introduces new financial services for globally underbanked. And as I was putting this together, I kind of thought to myself that globally underbanked people, I think people tend to think of those who have no banking services. But even for myself, who has had banking services their whole life, um, there are still places where I'm not allowed to participate as a non-accredited investor, or I don't have a threshold of wealth that I can't participate in some of the same things that others have. And so uh, you, a lot of us could fall into that globally underbanked term. And I think that's more appropriate than just kind of signaling that it's a poorer population. It hits us all. That's the main point.
Yeah,
Uh,
fully agree.
open source permissionless development, powerful network effects. The fact that you can opt out is a huge deal. Um, it establishes new economic and governance systems. That's the big part that I harp on the most. And then the autonomous future, ways that we can imbue rights and contracts to those things that don't have them yet. And we're working on some research right now to do that for koalas, the animal koalas. And obviously people can consider the autonomous vehicle having its own contracts and autonomously executing type of self-taxiing services. But there's a big spectrum in between those. And well, there's a lot more to say there. But what does that mean for us at Wolfram? So we have four focus areas. We have integration service and infrastructure, and that's something that allows us to connect to a particular blockchain and then read and write data from and to that blockchain. Uh, Computational intelligence, things like analytics, data science, forensics, wallet flow, network graphs. Those are all falling into the intelligence category. An Oracle service, this is something to bring facts and algorithms that are uh, true about the world into blockchain ecosystems that don't necessarily have that knowledge. And then research and education. Uh, how can we bring everybody up to speed? This is a complex topic. What types of things are we doing there? And so we're launching our first conference called Chain Science that's happening this June in Boston, Massachusetts. And then we've also launched a podcast and newsletter for which you might see a friendly few faces on there. Maud, how am I doing? Do I have a few more minutes?
Oh yeah, of course, you're doing great.
Okay.
I am. I'm taking notes, preparing my follow-up questions, so all
Okay.
good.
All right. So this is from our documentation site, but basically when we integrate a blockchain, we have these universal functions that can operate across all of them. And so if we want to get blockchain block data or transaction data or address data or token data, all of those things, that one function will operate across each blockchain. And so that's kind of a unique thing that you can do within Wolfram language is simplify the process for getting the information and doing the science that you want to do. You can also write to blockchains. You can do transaction signatures and transaction submissions. And then you can also manage your private and public key pairs. And so we have a few applications where we do that as well. Here's an example of just using some of that information, but we have a blockchain base and we can set it to uh, whichever blockchain that we're connected to. These are currently who we're connected to: Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, Tezos, Bloxburg, Arc, uh, in the process of adding more. And doing it in a way where other blockchains can just connect to us as opposed to doing a massive integration. So there's more to come there, but you set the blockchain base and then you're working within the certain framework of that blockchain. You begin to ask for transaction data, you include the different addresses that you want to look at, and we can produce a type of forensics or wallet flow or network graph. And this comes from our one of our cryptographers was looking at a hack and trying to follow the funds from where it began to where it ended up, and to just identify along that path, you know, what are the important addresses, how much money was moved, at what point was there any other additional information exposed. You know, we can start to label some of these addresses, and um, that type of information is valuable. So that would kind of fall into the intelligence category of one of our focuses. Another big focus for us has been governance. Uh, Within these new ecosystems, we have the ability to do governance voting in different ways, and we have, um, you know, we have different types of organizations where a global community can make decisions, and that's important. However, there's still humans interacting in these distributed systems, and we need to be able to confirm for ourselves that the system's working fairly or it's operating correctly. So to that extent, we've begun doing some wallet and voting analysis where we take a look at the whole distribution of wallets that voted in a particular outcome. In this case, it was within Cardano's uh, Project Catalyst program. That is their accelerator program for community projects. At the time, there was about 32,000 registered wallets, all with a distribution of different amounts within. And because it's proof of stake, one token equals one vote. So what happens if there's a few whales with an extraordinary amount of tokens? How does that affect the actual voting outcome and distribution? And we were able to show that, you know, even if the a small number like 10% colluded, they could dictate the entire outcome of the vote because it's the the uh, the voting dynamics, the the users that actually have the deciding vote are more impactful across all of the votes than the cumulative amount of separate voters. So we basically broke it down into different cohorts, and we were able to determine uh, that you could have really skewed dynamics. And so that's important for a community to know. Maybe that suggests that you implement quadratic voting, or you know, you do different things to mitigate the difference in the inequality effects.
Yep.
All we want to do is boil all of what we know, the analysis, intelligence, down into a dashboard, make it visually helpful and appealing for people to make decisions, to know things a little bit better. So that's what we've begun doing. This dashboard for governance on Cardano is going to launch soon. It includes a various types of different graphs, different things that you could want to know about a governance community, or how the voting turned out, or how people voted, what kind of decision matrix you should uh, make decisions with. So we're taking that plus social data like from Twitter, Reddit, from different forums, and trying to add some sentiment analysis into it so that people can get a really good feel for what's going on in their community. I'm sure that we all know what it feels like to be within a Discord, and you know, there's just a lot of things going on, or there's tweets here, there's tweets there. Maybe we could boil it down and understand things from a more holistic perspective. Of course, that comes with building out architecture. So, that's something that we've begun there. And eventually, hopefully, we can make it look like a set of indexes on the left, a place to scroll through on the right, something that's mobile, something that people carry with them at all times. Oracle, Mod, still good on time, or should I wrap it up?
You're so good.
Okay.
I'm learning so much. Like I literally have like 3 pages of notes and questions and things I definitely want to follow up on later. So you're so good.
Okay, I'm almost done. There's only a few more. So the Oracle problem, this is a big problem within blockchain ecosystems. Essentially, the problem is you've built this protocol to be decentralized and to be secure. But if you want to know, if you want your smart contracts to know something about the real world, what is the entity that's introducing those facts into your secure blockchain? And perhaps that introduces, uh, you know, bad actors. It brings in incorrect data. It makes the smart contracts kind of operate in ways that you don't want. So this is a big, difficult problem. We do have one of the largest kind of repositories of facts and algorithms in the world, and in a computational format. So the problem is, how do you get that on chain in a secure way that's trustable and reliable? And so that's an ongoing problem that we're figuring out, but we've made good progress there. For example, one thing you could do is ask for the weather in a particular location. You decide which blockchain you want it on, and then it's delivered in a computational format, meaning you can see what the exact request was to from a Wolfram language query. You get the exact information back from a Wolfram Alpha result and the time, and then that can be immediately converted into a Solidity contract or whatever your smart contract program is. Copy that, pull it into your smart contract. Lastly, we've begun doing these study groups. These are just areas to get people together to start learning about blockchains. And we're building that into a larger online course that includes things on cryptography. We have done a podcast. You might see these familiar faces. We had Chang, we had Maud, we have several different other key builders in the space coming onto our show. And that's been a lot of fun. And we're going to keep that going. And like I mentioned, we have a chain science conference. This is to bring together researchers and academics and builders in the world to one, to a physical location, things that we should do more of. And that's June 15th through the 17th. And then we will have a virtual conference following up after that in the following month. We are accepting papers at this time. They don't necessarily have to be pre-published. In fact, that's not always how it's done. If you have a paper that you want to submit, you can send it to chainscience@wolfram.com. And then I think this is one of our most interesting pieces of research that we're doing. This relates to that koala rights and koala tokens. So what you see here on screen are 3 entities. There's the Australian government, New South Wales government. We have a New South Wales Forestry Corporation, and we have koalas. What we're trying to do is model a system so that it balances the rights of koalas to certain trees, because they are a diminishing population. They need to be ensured rights to trees. So how can we provide those rights? And then there are humans in the loop that need to continue doing their economic they're economically driven actions. And so how do you balance these things in a way that doesn't deny markets, doesn't give the state government the power to decide yes or no, and it kind of allows for a more equitable outcome. So we're modeling that and beginning to really put our hands on what a token economic system looks like. In summary, the opportunity is massive. We have new types of computational sciences in economics and governance now that we have public data and blockchain transactions. The user experience does need work. I think a lot of these background systems, protocols will fade into the background, and we will just have a user experience that is something that we already know, with a lot more freedom and sovereignty built in. There is some regulatory environment that's uncertain, but we're developing long-term infrastructure to help move this space forward. So that ends the talk there.
Thank you so much for everything. Maybe just before I start with my long list of questions that I prepared and also taking the community one, maybe for the people who have been watching us and might be wondering, what's the link between Wolfram and Alephium? Because how did we come together? So maybe you can explain a bit how Alephium encountered Wolfram and a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I think prior to either of us, there was a thing called the UTXO Alliance established. And this is a consortium of individuals and organizations to advance the UTXO model to make it more programmable, scalable, and interoperable. And I think we take it for granted, but we're surrounded by some of the most brilliant people in blockchain space building across different platforms on a weekly basis. And so we're both members of the UTXO Alliance, and part of our mission is just to support blockchain builders, those who are actually doing it deep in the trenches, trying to make something that is as complicated as this open ecosystem come to life. We find that really inspiring, and so that's how we met Alephium and Maud and Chang, and so we've been really grateful for that experience. And yeah, I just think it's something that's worth building on. And well, yeah, that's how we met.
Exactly. And we are working to, can I ask you just to stop sharing your screen? And,
Yes.
and I do want to say that, yeah, so we have been working to try and also make the UTXO model better understood, because it is what it's in its conceptually, it is very simple. It's actually, this simplicity makes it actually really hard to grasp for a lot of people. So we have spent, now I can say hours, trying to think about how we can educate people and work on this to try and make the UTXO model more understood, as we are also working towards improving it. One question that I want to ask is going back into the creation of Wolfram Blockchain. What drove the decision to start this blockchain initiative within Wolfram? Like, kind of, when did it happen, and what kind of was the main driver that was like, okay, now we need to be involved into this space and contribute?
Yeah, so most people kind of confuse. They think that we're building a blockchain, but we're not, at least for now. And but the Wolfram Alpha service is this thing that provides facts about the world. And so we began receiving queries in 2013 asking for Bitcoin's price. And then we started receiving more queries, and the same thing happened with Ethereum. And so people were clearly wondering, what are these things and what's more information about them? And as just a provider of information and knowledge about the world, and knowing that these are new computational systems, there was a push internally the alignment was there. It was, hey, this is a new type of computational infrastructure. We need to be able to understand what's going on here. And I think that's where it began. That was before my time. But then over the past couple of years, we wanted to get deeper and deeper into it and started integrating with particular blockchains. And now we're developing a framework so that any blockchain can connect to us, and data from their chain can arrive within our technology stack. And then from there, we should be able to empower our community, our scientists, to be able to do, whatever.
Yeah. I really enjoyed when you showed like kind of the governance dashboard. I feel like bringing transparency into what happens on chain, because not everyone is able to read on chain and understand blockchain data. So I think bringing transparency into this and allowing people to monitor what is happening on chain, I think this is really valuable, and that's definitely I really enjoyed this. I also really like the koala, and I was going to ask you questions about this, but then you went at the end of your presentation about it. One of the question that I can see is, for you personally, how do you see, what excites you, what impact excite you the most from, okay, let me phrase this different. It's like, what excites you the most in terms of what contribution can Wolfram do to the blockchain space personally?
Well, first of all, if you hear any knocking, it's because somebody's doing some construction in one of these adjacent buildings. So apologize if you can hear that. But where do we see our largest impact? At least in the blockchain space. One, as a connector, obviously, we have a platform already connected to several blockchains, and we have the ability to start to facilitate cross-chain transactions, at least in theory. It's a lot harder in practice. But as a connector, as a explorer of a new type of science, I think that's where our first thought is. It's really difficult to build on something that's changing very quickly, and the blockchain space changes rapidly. Either your team, the Alephium team, I'm sure can say things are changing and we want them to change fast and we want to move even faster. And so what do we know as a kind of observer of the space that's providing long-term infrastructure and data? What do we have to stand on? And what I think we know for sure is that this space opens up economics and governance systems in a way that distributes it to the entire, it pushes that type of creativity out to the edges. And if we want people at the edges to have as much knowledge and computational horsepower at their fingertips, they need the types of tools that like Wolfram can build. And I think we start to see it with LLMs. LLMs are this enormous accelerant to just technology and doing new things in the world, but they do need support, and they do need tools that know things about nutrition, things about the geosciences, things about blockchains. If we want to talk, if we want to speak knowledgeably about the world, we do need tools that have science built into them, and that's what Wolfram does, and that's what the Wolfram language is.
Yeah.
Long
Thank you.
answer, but I it's hard to answer because I see a lot of opportunity, and from those 4 focus areas, we just want to provide that. We want to provide infrastructure. We want to provide intelligence on top of it. We want to pull in facts and algorithms into blockchain ecosystems, and then we want to educate people about them.
Cool. So I will take now one of I'm going to introduce into my question list something that came out from the YouTube chat. So the question is, what are the biggest challenges in analyzing blockchain data compared to analyzing Web2 data?
Taking in blockchain data is not as straightforward as you might believe. So the indexing services are different across each chain. And then the standardization doesn't necessarily exist yet. So if you want to do deep analytics and look across chain or compare this one versus that one, or to highlight one specific NFT community and see how all of those users, uh, what else do they own and what other types of transactions are they doing, you know, it balloons pretty quickly. And to establish that infrastructure, to know what you're looking for, to have a narrative that is economically feasible to want to share as a product, yeah, there's a lot to chew on. And so I think from an analytics point of view, the fact that the data exists and we know it does not make it any easier to actually do the data science on. You still need to collect it all, make it computable, have it queryable, and then know what you're looking for. And so to do all of that and make it into a business and spend a lot of time on it is just different things that you have to weigh in on.
Yep. Thank you. I will stay kind of on the more, let's say, some more technical side, but it's like for you, but you can also speak in the name of Wolfram as a whole, is like, what changes do you want to see in the blockchain space in the future?
So how I originally approached blockchains was from an investment perspective. And I don't think we need more of that, though it is a great accelerant to teams building. What I would like to see changing is just a user in the middle of nowhere who is tired of using or tired of seeing maybe their local community outsourcing everything and not understanding why those complex dynamics have led to their community hollowing out. Like, you know, we used to be able to build things ourselves, or I could go to the family run store, or our community just seems a little more hollow. I would like to see a transition towards people making their own currencies, their own tokens on top of blockchain ecosystems, and really starting to experiment in a way that's more grassroots. Uh, so the conversations that are kind of on Twitter or on social media about blockchains, is a lot of it is noise, where what's going on down here that is locally driven, because I do believe that if we start to really understand money, that we're got to see it kind of locally drive from the bottom up to grow into something that contains the values that you care enough about to use elsewhere. And so like bottom up currency development is a big thing for me, maybe because I just read a book on it, but that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay.
I could try that. I could try it, another version of that, but that's what I want to see more of, is
No, I
local
understand.
currencies.
Okay, that is nice. That's a nice perspective. I do follow you in the things that I also want, let's say, the trading and the trading aspect of crypto being maybe less prominent, and the technology innovation and what they can enable for people leveraging them is what I want people to talk about as well more. But speaking of this, education, blockchain is far from mainstream today, and education will be very important into making blockchain more adopted and to see the effect that you are discussing. And so what do you think we are lacking educational wise, and where do you think, let's say, what would be your suggestion in terms of area of focus when it comes to blockchain education?
Yeah, so if we go past like the distraction of the kind of global uh, dialogue around blockchain, and we get to like how should we begin understanding this? My I just recently bumped into my high school history teacher who said for the first time they're going to teach a macroeconomics class in the high school. And I asked if blockchain might show up in there, and they don't know anything about blockchains, but they know what Bitcoin is. Um, so education has to seep down. It has to seep throughout society. It has to by osmosis. It feels so. One, I just want to acknowledge that it's going to take some time, but the fact that some of these conversations are happening and they might appear in a classroom in a public high school in southern New Jersey, where I'm from, is encouraging. The other thing is our digital natives today are the children being born today, and with an iPad in hand, probably are going to adopt these new things much quicker than um, adults today. It's just like it's difficult to frame this technology that is so big and powerful in a way that you know how to adapt your life to it. So I think there's like structural societal impacts and education that needs to happen at all levels. Um, but conversations out loud with having this conversation just reveals how little some of us how little I know about this whole space. And so if people can develop a little bit of confidence to say this is a new space and really it's not well understood. um, I think it would be incredibly encouraging for those people to empower themselves and go find out more. So I think that needs to happen. Lastly, from like an actual practical perspective, uh, we are building an online course. We're taking conversations with experts and making glossary items of what is a UTXO, what is the account model, what is a distributed ledger, and really just making it as simple as possible. Um, it has to happen on all fronts.
Yeah.
And really, I think a lot of people are overwhelmed by their own things going on in daily life that it's just difficult to break through the main dialogue of regulation and bubbles and busts to know that this is something a bit deeper, much deeper, and what is there for me to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you, right? I learn every day in this space. Is like I didn't came into crypto. I came into the blockchain space knowing absolutely nothing, and as I spend more time into the space every day, I learn and I build my understanding of the space. So I do follow you on the things that if people were a bit more willing to admit that knowledge has to be built, because this is not a knowledge that exists and that is definitely not shared, and have more conversation like this to try and together build this common understanding. I think that's very important. I do want to go a little bit, stay in this topic, but more specific to Wolfram and how Wolfram, kind of on the education topic, what does Wolfram do? You mentioned, I mean, you're with us in the UTXO Alliance, and I mean, you are pushing towards, we've spent an hour in a call trying to think about ways we can make the UTXO model more understood. You also have the conference that you mentioned, but what are other focuses of Wolfram with regard to education that maybe you can share as well, if there are?
Yeah. So our approach has been kind of analytical, scientific, and so from that perspective, we want to make things visual. And can we take the data and make it so that it's easily digestible and understandable? That's kind of the point of what we're doing with our governance dashboard is just make it so that people can really ingest it in a way that makes sense to them, and they can make a clear decision quickly. So one is just to make things more visual. Two, it's to have the conversation with experts and put it into a structured class. And so the online class, we have to make that happen. Three, when you allow community, so we have a great online community. When we've made the data available to our Wolfram community, other people start to develop their own ways of looking at things. So one of the fun things in Wolfram language is you can make music out of any set of data, of notes. So you can make the Bitcoin blockchain sound like an acoustic guitar. When you start putting these types of things for people to play around with in their hands, they don't look at the Bitcoin blockchain as like this aggressive set of data, and you can make it sound like something. That's when you're really going to start to see people explore things a bit deeper. Lastly, with Chat GPT and our Wolfram plugin, the tutoring services that are going to be available here. Hey, what happened to Bitcoin on June 21st? And can you tell me why the price changed? Or any number of different things. We're going to have tutoring services that have information about the world in a way that are more approachable to the common person, and it's going to open up what types of understanding we have for blockchains. So I don't necessarily think people have to go into the depths of what a UTXO is, because I think a lot of this stuff will just kind of be background protocols at some point, and then you'll start to use and own NFTs in a way that maybe at some point when you want to build your own, that's when you need to answer those questions. I don't know. Still trying to figure that one out.
Well, I mean, I think that once you reach the stage where that people care, all people care about, people that uses the chain don't care about the underlying infrastructure and things like this. Hopefully it means that blockchain has been able to make its place into the daily life of people in different ways.
Yeah.
So if we reach that point, that would be good. So we're nearing the end. I kind of have a closing question, but I don't know do you have anything that you want to share before I go with my closing question?
Well, I already made some of my shameless plugs around the conference and our podcast, which is at Wolfram Blockchain Labs on YouTube. But
you should, and people watching, you should check out the episodes we did with Cheng and myself.
Yes. Yeah. So no, I just like to confirm that I try to be as humble about what I know here as possible. I like to connect with smart people like yourself in the Alephium community. This is a group effort. Everyone is encouraged to join and participate. It takes time to build things. And I really do believe that these technologies have the power to shift society in positive ways. And I'm going to spend the foreseeable future trying to do that.
Thank you. And so my last question and closing question, I mean, you kind of answered it already, but some people, for people joining us at the end, and that's also a question that we know will come up, is like, will Wolfram consider to expand the data platform to support new blockchain like Alephium? Plugging in Alephium right there.
We have special, we definitely do have a work in progress on something we're calling the blockchain framework, but it's going to allow for at least a much easier integration from reading the blockchain in and then manipulating that data within our platform. And then future, we'll be able to add the ability to transact on those new types of blockchains. So yes, I see it in the future, which would be really exciting. And I think actually we're working on one right now. So we'll have like, I should probably put it in front of you in the next month or two so that we can get some feedback. But the answer is yes, it's coming.
Great. Thank you very much. I think that we can stop here for today. Thank you so much for your time. Like, as always, I really enjoyed this conversation with you. And I was really, really happy to hear more about the work that you do at Wolfram. Like, I really learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone watching did as well. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation, and I wish you a great start in the day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me, Maud. I'll probably see you next week.
Bye.